All right, places, everyone. Seconds.
Okay. 3, 1.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Agorist Unconference. We are here at the Valley Forge Beef and Ale in beautiful Valley Forge. We have heard from 3 of our 5 speakers. This is exciting. The crowd here is getting bigger. There's more beer flowing. I'm still not drinking a beer, though. But we are ready for our next speaker, Mike Salvi. Yes, it gets loud here. Before we get to Mike, let me do the obligatory list of our sponsors. And I found out that I was mispronouncing one. I was mentioning Bitcoin. We use coins, plural.com. So let me run down the list. FreeKeene.com is our prime sponsor. FreeKeane.com. The Foundation for a Free Society. LibertiesVoice.com. Freedom Engineering Project. Global Net of Anarchy and Peace. Fully Informed Jury Association, one of my personal favorites. Center for a Stateless Society. PorkFest. Edgar the Exploiter. WeUseCoins.com. Dotson for Congress. DellValleySilver.com. WalkandRose.com. Monco LP. And Valley Forge Beef and Ale. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ken Krawchuk. I was a Libertarian candidate for governor of Pennsylvania in 2002 and the last third-party candidate to appear on the ballot in Pennsylvania for governor because of our onerous ballot access laws. But that's me. This is going to be about Mike Salvi. Mike will be talking today about how not to get totally overwhelmed as an activist. Mike started out his activist career as a coordinator for Ron Paul's Campaign for Liberty by promoting individual liberty, sound money, free markets, limited government, and non-interventionism. What an idea. His activism branched into various topics rooted in sovereignty, educating the public about self-ownership and freedom, and the way it was done the way our founders had originally envisioned. At the moment, he's the organizer and moderator of one of the largest meetup groups in the Philadelphia area. He gave us a heart attack by showing up about 2 minutes before he was supposed to go on, but he is here. Please join me in welcoming Mike Salvi. Thank you.
One way not to get totally overwhelmed as an activist is show up on time.
They had me in the Agora category, so if somebody could switch me into a different channel, that would be great. I'm not an agorist. Is that how you say it? Agora? Agorist? Well, start out by saying how many activists are in the room? Show of hands. And show of hands, how many activists online? Wow. Whoa. You can easily get overwhelmed. And I brought props. There's one way to get overwhelmed. I like hats. I wear a lot of hats. Should I talk to you? I'm going to talk to them. No offense to you, internet fool. Yeah, people, but you should have came to Valley Forge.
So one thing to do is you can do what I did in the very beginning, which I still do, and that's look a little ridiculous when you wear too many hats.
Lighten up. I was still on time. There we go. I went to all the trouble to bring all these hats to get a laugh. I had to ask for it.
So you can do this, and this looks a little ridiculous. Not too many people are going to take you seriously, but I wear all these hats because, well, I like this. I've never really been a trucker hat type of guy, but I like this one because of the Pennsylvania Revolution logo. So I like to wear this. But then when I leave my house and I look at the mirror, I say, you know what? I really like my Phillies hat too, and I want to wear this one. So let me throw this one on too. This is my friend's group, Jedi Mind Tricks, and I like showing off his logo. So let me wear this one too. And I like the fact that I'm actually tall for once, but I look a little ridiculous. Okay, can I stop doing this? Do you guys get the metaphor? It's a little uncomfortable.
Keep going. All right.
Do it again.
Wear them the whole time.
I'll wear them the entire time, and you'll see what will happen.
I don't see any fruit on the hat.
You're not looking hard enough.
No, sorry.
There's a joke in there somewhere. I just haven't figured it out yet.
All right. Forget what's happened.
What is that talking about?
It toppled over. Why? Because you try to do too much and you get completely burned out and overwhelmed. You lose weight, you look like you're smoking crack, your eyes start looking crazy, and it's just one of the things that I found was I don't know where to go from here. I know that there's a big problem.
Does this more help the internet or you guys?
Us.
In the room.
That's in the room.
Is it too loud for you guys?
I'm talking to the internet people like they can answer me. So.
They can.
I have no idea what they're saying. So, one of the things that I wanted to start off by saying was I'm not an agorist. I'm not an anarchist. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a libertarian. I could go through all the things that I'm not. I wrote them all down actually, but I'll just sum up to I'm a Mike Salvi. That's the best thing that I know how to do. That's the best thing I know how to be. I tried to enter different arenas, and one of the reasons why I kind of sat back and just paid attention for about a year before I even showed up to any events or tried to participate and get involved is because I don't mind admitting that I don't like when people shut me down right away. You know, if I raise my hand and try to answer a question and I get just completely bombarded, I tend to shut down a little bit. So in order to avoid that, I wanted to at least be able to sharpen my skills and step in the ring with knowing a little bit more than I used to. And also, I have 2 jobs. I have a daughter. I have a family to take care of. I have 2 cats, 2 kittens, a turtle, a dog, a life I try to fit into all this too. And a lot of things had to get pushed aside. I can tell you I haven't trained in a martial arts studio in over a year. I haven't touched my skateboard in I don't know how long. There's things that I like to do in my life that I just, as much as I want to do them and I try to carve the time out to do it, I have to push it aside. Because sitting back and watching all this nonsense go on, whatever your nonsense issue is, for me, sitting back and watching, the dollar crash, I didn't really understand what it meant to see a dollar collapse. I didn't understand how any of that worked, but I started doing my reading, I started doing my research. In 2007, I decided to pay attention to the presidential campaign because I figured, before that, my only political involvement was voting in 2000 and 2004. And both times I voted against Bush because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. Before that, it was nothing. And I felt good about it. I felt like I went and I did my part, but clearly that didn't really do much because the economy got way worse. Now that, as of this, now we're in 3 wars. And I just felt inadequate. I felt helpless, and I didn't know where to go, who to talk to, or whatever. Oddly enough, the first thing that I ever attended was an End the Fed rally because I just knew that it seemed like the Democrats were saying one thing, the Republicans were saying another, but I just felt like there was more to the story that was going on. I heard a lot more about the Federal Reserve. I started teaching myself more about the Federal Reserve System and what it is, and really understood that that's, I'm sure it goes deeper, but for now, that's the man behind the curtain that we need to talk to, or at least talk about, and that's where most of the cause of the problem is. Look, I don't care what kind of bills get introduced. If they don't get passed or aren't able to get funded, then it doesn't matter. You can throw all the spaghetti against the wall you want to, but when it's like a drug addict. If you just cut off the drug supply, they're not going to be able to do any more drugs. So in going to different events and going to different meetings, I started asking my peers, what's the best thing that someone like me can do? I have to get up and go to work every day. I don't have a whole lot of time to dedicate to, advancing the cause of freedom or liberty or whatever that means. The bottom line that everybody seemed to say that was, the common thread was keep educating yourself and share this with others and educate more, more and more people. Okay, so what do I teach them? I'm still learning. Where do I get off coming along as an authority figure saying I know what's going on and I know the answer when I know in my heart that I don't? I started to see how this country was put together. I read the Constitution, but that only took me so far. I read the Declaration of Independence, and that hit me a lot harder. I started to see where the Constitution came from, and I read the Federalist Papers, I read the Anti-Federalist Papers, and it was like I put myself through a new study. I put myself through a new Mike Salvi University. After I graduated, I felt like it was okay to come out. I went to the first End the Fed rally in November of 2008, met everybody, and just completely fell in love with the movement. Everybody was fun, and I was scared to go because from what I saw online and what I saw on the news, people get arrested at protests. Okay, there's mass arrests. I didn't want to get arrested just for showing up. I'm glad that I forced myself to go because I broke through that barrier because it didn't happen. The police were actually nice to us. And I found out they get paid time and a half to come help at a protest. So maybe that was one of the reasons why they're in a better mood. So the more and more I got involved, it just seemed like this was the thing to talk about, because if I started talking to somebody about, some crazy abortion rights, or, was 9/11 an inside job? Was it an outside job? Was it, this or the other thing? And I never knew where to pinpoint things, because you can easily get shut down when you pick a certain issue that doesn't affect everybody directly. What affects everybody directly is prices going up. All of a sudden, people start talking about gas prices again, and everybody has something in common again. Everybody sees that their purchasing power is dropping, so that's something else that we can all have in common. Unfortunately, we're all forced to trade with Federal Reserve notes, which, I have no problem with money itself at all, but I do have a problem with our purchasing power being in the hands of people that are completely out of our reach as a public. We don't get to say who's the Federal Reserve Board, member or any of that stuff. So when they get to control the value of going up and down of our dollar and the one thing that we trade with, that's a pretty big deal. And when most people don't know that, I think it's a bigger deal to teach them and to educate them. So that's the topic that I picked. Okay, that's the thing that I chose to go after. Is little Mike Salvi going to be able to end the Fed? I'd like to believe I could, but I highly doubt it. What I can do is start to teach people the right things about the Federal Reserve. I mean, you could easily, I could just make stuff up about it, and I'm sure somebody could believe me if I spoke well enough. But I wanted to know certain facts. And the bottom line is, when you have a central bank, I mean, history, I'm not here to give you a whole history on central banking. I mean, there's enough information about it, but history shows that central banking always leads to, a big problem. And we're either right in the middle of it now, and it's just being masked really well, or it's about to hit us a whole lot harder. When it comes down to this whole idea of educating yourself, it's interesting that I'm on I guess we'll take the agorist angle. I don't feel an obligation to share this with everybody, but I sort of do, because I don't feel like this is something that I have to force down people's throats. One, they won't listen if anything's forced down their throat, but if you can talk to them about it and just ask them. I mean, I reach into my pocket and I pull out a Federal Reserve note and I show it to somebody and I say, what does this mean? Do you understand where this comes from and how it works? Most people just shrug their shoulders. So once I kind of get off on that light bulb that you see when you start to tell somebody something and they get it. And all of a sudden they go, that makes no sense at all. Well, it makes sense the way I'm explaining it, but the fact that the way that the system works doesn't really make sense. So I don't feel a moral obligation. But at the same time, I won't turn people off, and I try not to call people sheeple. I try to. I just don't. I don't say sheeple. I don't, while 30 million people voted for the winner in American Idol last week, I don't put like a negative spin on that to somebody to say, you care more about American Idol than you do about our country, because that's not true. Most people do really care. They just don't even know where to start. So I try to put myself in their position. By doing this, I don't get into arguments with people. I really don't. I was talking to the reason I'm late, by the way, is because I was coming from a dance competition for my little girl, who won first place. By the way, as a father, you like it when your daughter gets a bigger round of applause than you do. So I came from there, but the entire time I was talking to one of the fathers of another student. We're talking for a little while, and we started talking about, the conversation started from racism, and then it went all the way to how he knows you, Larkin. He's actually a friend of yours, and I won't say his name on the internet, but I'll tell you later. But what was funny was, the conversation was great. There was another gentleman that was with us who is he's a big-time support. He's on the council in his borough. He's a big-time supporter of a major Democrat congressional member here in the area. And I'm keeping it vague because it doesn't really matter, but I guess what I'm trying to say is this third guy that was in the conversation was just kind of off, wasn't exactly in line with everything that we were saying. However, he didn't, they saw my shirt and the Federal Reserve, and I get all kinds of heads, turning and looking and asking me, really? Yeah, well, he started bringing up certain topics and certain issues about the Fed, and I kind of defending it in a way. But I didn't attack him, and he didn't attack me. And for a good 2.5 hours, the three of us sat down, Indian style, on this carpet, just talking. A bunch of little kids just hanging out and talking, and it was a great conversation. At the end of it, I'm able to walk away, and we all thanked each other, and we all complimented on each other on how well the conversation went. But I didn't get overwhelmed at all by the fact that, first of all, he was wearing this congressional member's name on his shirt. So I'll tell you honestly, I already was like, I'm not going to get through to this guy one bit. I'm not afraid to say I judged him right away, but his defense walls were down because of the way that I was talking to him. My defense walls down because of the way that he was talking to me. And who knows? Did I convert him and convince him that we should, get rid of central banking? No, but there's another ally that at least heard my perspective. Here's something that I wanted to point out. I'm speaking at an Agora anarchist conference, unconference, whatever it is. I'm talking to a whole lot of free-minded thinkers. I'm talking to a whole lot of people that, you guys know what you are. You're awesome, all right? You're freedom lovers, okay? 2 weeks ago, I gave a talk at the Zeitgeist Day to the Venus Project, to what could be considered the exact opposite of whatever our goal was supposed to be. I got invited. I didn't ask to be a speaker. I got invited to here. I didn't ask to be a speaker. How is it that two different perspectives within a few weeks asked me to come and talk? I'm not making any money off of this. I'm not giving anybody money. I'm not getting any kickbacks or anything. So what is it? It's the message. I guess it's the way that it's being delivered. Let's say it's cliche, but it's true. I'm nobody special. All right? I'm not looking to become any type of big-time activist. Right? Most of us know how much money is in activism. So, I'm not motivated by that at all. I'm not looking to become, our meetup group, truthfreedomprosperity.org, is local. Okay, I'm not trying to get a whole bunch of people to adopt this program and, do this in California and do this wherever so that we can oversee how all this goes. This is just our local group. And I'll get into that later, but we keep the doors open because our message. I don't want to get caught preaching to the choir. Okay, I spent 1.5 years working on the Audit the Fed bill and trying to get that passed and trying to get co-sponsors for that and trying to raise awareness for it. And the Audit the Fed bill was so, got attached to a bill that was so bad that the guy that introduced it couldn't even vote for it. All right, do y'all know that story? Okay, long story short, that's what happened. I don't want to waste any more time. Okay, I don't want to look back a year later and say nothing was accomplished from that. Now, we always make the argument that a whole lot got accomplished from it because we raised awareness and we got people to pay attention. And there's credibility when you talk to somebody who does believe in the system and you can say, well, 300 plus congressmen co-sponsored this bill. A good chunk of the Senate co-sponsored this bill. 3 out of 4 Americans on a poll said that, yes, we should audit the Fed. Don't you think it's a good idea? The bill was 1.5 pages long. It's not like it took long to read. I guess if it was 2,000 pages, it might have went through a little bit faster and it may have actually passed. All right, but God forbid you read something that's only 1.5 pages long. What I'm getting at is, as far as the system goes, and as far as trying to work that through the system, sorry to say, it was a big waste of time. Okay, because it got us really nowhere. It actually got us worse because they passed this Dodd-Frank bill. So with that being said, I don't want to waste any more time either. And I could easily pick the 9/11 issue. That's a very important issue, and I could talk about all those things. I don't know if it was an inside job. I don't know what happened. I just know that there's no way in, no way in the place below that I believe the story that was told to us by the government at all. Okay, especially when the head of the 9/11 Commission wrote a book called The Ground Truth, saying everything we told you is a lie anyway. I could pick that issue, but there's also I run the risk of getting pigeonholed because even still, once your back gets pushed into the corner with the 9/11 issue, people say, okay, it happened. Now what? There's really, you can't say that when you talk about economics. Nobody can really say, okay, so the Federal Reserve's a scam. Okay, the Federal Reserve is, has been lying to us. Now what? Well, the now what is followed by, now we take care of ourselves. Now that you've turned your back on the Fed and you've stopped using Federal Reserve notes, what can you do instead? So that's one of the reasons why I picked this issue. However, I don't mind telling you that, in private, I get totally overwhelmed by stuff because I can't stop reading. There's nights where I'm up till like 2, 3 in the morning just reading, this person sent me this link and You know, it's like I have ADD with this stuff. It's like, you know, this link and this takes me to this, and now I'm on a whole new topic, and I'm like, whoa, what do I pick to bring to the public forum? I could talk about a lot of crazy issues. I could talk about a lot of, you know, what's considered normal issues. You know, I don't even spend time trying to talk about, we won't get into that. See what I mean? I don't waste my time. So what have I done? What can somebody like me, hopefully this is an inspiration, hopefully this is useful for your time. What can somebody like me who's got 2 jobs, who's got a life, who's, you know, wants to have fun, wants to do this, wants to do that. By the way, I don't follow baseball at all. I couldn't name more than 2 Phillies. I just have every Phillies hat I think that was ever made because I like it. But those are the types of things that I like to do. It's just what I'm into, and I want to be able to have my personal time back. So how can I fit activism into all this? Personally, I show movies once a month. There's really not a whole lot more I can do than put this information in front of everybody and say, you figure it out. You tell me what you think. Because it's not like somebody sat me down one day and said, this is what's going on, and now you're awakened. And now you know what the problem is. I've been looking at this stuff for quite a long time. For those of you who have just quote unquote woken up, good morning. Okay, there's a big journey that's ahead of me. As far as activism goes, look, I just thought this a long time ago. If you're not having fun doing what you're doing, quit. Screaming and acting in a rage and getting in arguments with people is not fun. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. So I don't do it. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't fold on every time I have a conversation with somebody. But what I do is are you waving? Are you giving me a hand signal? Or are you just taking a picture? Where was I? Oh, so where can I fit in? I call this get in where you fit in, and that doesn't mean just do what you can do and let that go. But what it is if you try to bite off way more than you can chew, you're going to look like an idiot with a whole bunch of hats on your head, and no one's going to take you seriously. And it worked. That's exactly what happened to me right in the very beginning. A good friend of mine, David John, said that to me. And the young, cocky, new, activist that can do it all, and I'm Superman. That's not going to happen to me. And it happened. I completely, in my personal life, I just completely crashed and burned because I was trying to do too much. I love the idea that Edwin Vieira and Walter Reddy were putting together with committees of safety, returning the power of the purse and the sword back to the people. I thought that was great. So I want to work with this organization. Yeah, money is a joke. Federal Reserve notes are a total joke. Karen and Bob have come up with Del Valley Silver, and I really focused a whole lot of my time and energy into studying silver and all that stuff. And do I have a lot of silver? Yeah, but yeah. Do I have a lot of silver? Yeah. And fortunately for me, the value's tripled. Okay, and that's what my savings account did. My savings account just goes clink, 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 and it sits in my. Well, don't worry about where it's at.
Out of my house.
Trade with it.
I can trade with it. It's right behind all the land. It's a joke. Actually, no, it's not a joke. It's where it is. So, look, I want to be able to do more. I want to be able to fly a plane over to the Middle East, and stand in the middle of the desert and scream, "Stop!" I want to, there's a million things that I want to do, but I can't because I am trapped. Okay, and I can try to pretend I'm as free as I want in my mind, but when the first of the month hits and my mortgage payment's due, sure, could I stop paying the mortgage? Yeah. Could I stay in my house for a while until they actually come try to remove me from my house? And I'm not going to have a standing shootout. It's just over principle on a mortgage payment. So, there's different things that I have to do versus the things that I want to do. I want to be able to, I look at a video that We Are Change just put out up in New York where Luke Radowski was sitting on the subway and interviewing, a whole bunch of different people, and it's really heartfelt if you haven't seen it. That's the type of thing that I want to do. I want to be able to go up to people and talk to them and engage them and and interview people, and I want to be able to write things here, and I want to be able to promote all this stuff. I don't have the time for it. I think stuff like that's effective, but since I don't have the time for it, that's when I start to get overwhelmed. And I don't know about you guys, but that's where I notice, and I get frustrated because since there's only so much that I can do, the word is inadequate, and that's exactly how I feel. the main thing that I really want to get the world to stop doing and why I've stepped into activism is not because I have the answer, not because I know what the right thing to do here is, but what I do want to see people do is, and again, I don't feel like I'm at this point where I'm above people and I'm awakened and they're not, because every day life teaches me that I'm not completely awakened, that I haven't arrived at this level of perfection that I'd like to be. What I do want to do is I want to get people to stop believing everything that they hear from the mainstream media. I want to get people to start questioning everything that comes through that channel specifically. And obviously, I would love to see people stop feeding the machine. I would love to see the entire world not, I think it's funny when people go to protests on April 15th and drop their, income tax check off in the, in the mailbox on their way to their protest. I don't get it. But I want to see the entire world not file their taxes because they don't have to. I want to see the entire world just stop. I mean, I looked at what happened in Egypt, and sure, there's a million theories as to what's really behind it, but on the surface, everybody hit the streets and they toppled their regime. Okay, at least temporarily, anyway. So I sat and I wondered, what would that look like here? How? And to be honest with you, I don't see it happen in the same way, because it's almost like the monster is, they're concentrated in D.C., but they've got all their little bases in every other little congressional district and state. So, where's our time best spent? Do we bust a whole bunch of people into Washington and then surround them? Well, ideally, I really shouldn't have to care what goes on in Washington. I should care what goes on here in my local reach. Not necessarily even in my state, in my state, but just what's within my reach. My neighbors, like my dog got out the other night. My neighbor came and knocked on my door at 11 o'clock and he said, "Hate to bother you, but your dog escaped." I said, "Do that every time. It's never a bother." Like, looking out for each other, that stuff's important. Back to what else we do. I'd like to believe that we're very solution-oriented as a group, truthfreedomprosperity.org. All we really are is we've taken activists in the area and we made them, we made some of them assistant organizers. One of them is a guy named Fernando who teaches survival classes twice a week down in Philadelphia, and it's a class called Survive and Thrive. And as a kid from Philly who rode SEPTA all his life, and if it wasn't a skateboard, I now know how to extract water from the ground. I now know how to filter my own water. I know how to, I know what bugs I can eat and what bugs I can't eat. I never would have thought to learn any of that stuff. I don't eat bugs. Should have read it. Yeah. Hopefully I don't have them. They're actually very nutritious. Camping, how to set up snares and how to truly fish. I didn't know any of that stuff, but I do now from a guy who grew up in Philadelphia. That's one of the things that we do. Another one of our organizers is a guy named Mark, and Mark is running a conference where I promised I would plug Mark's conference, freeyourmindconference.com. What Mark is doing, and Larkin is a speaker at the conference. Larkin Rose. I'm going to call you out a few times, just so you don't mind. Mark has a radio show. It's once a week. And anytime he has an event, we cross-promote each other's events. That's really all we do. One of our organizers is Stacy Litz with the Student Liberty Front down at Drexel University. She is I got to tell you, Stacy, on her spring break right now, is down cleaning up the oil spill. Okay. Most college students on their spring break are doing anything but thinking about the oil spill. That says a lot. So, Stacy is a leader down at Drexel. She's got tons of followers, tons of, liberty-minded students that there was nothing like that when I was in Temple just 10 years ago. And if it was, I certainly didn't seek it out. Because I wasn't even thinking about that. But it's amazing to see a whole bunch of students thinking like this. So she's one of our organizers. Again, the group is really just a forum for us to cross-promote each other's events. We don't have a message board on purpose. We don't have an email list. We had an email list, but one day I was at work, came home, checked my email, and saw that about 15 members disappeared off of our group, and our numbers shot down. I couldn't figure out why. I sign on, I check my email, and there's one of those 10-foot long email debates. My God's better than your God. my idea is better than your idea, you suck, and now just delete it. I completely got rid of the email list because that's not what the forum's supposed to be about. I don't want a whole bunch of people just sitting online, sharing their ideas. Come out if you actually have something to say. So there's something different about our group, and I don't know exactly what it is. I guess it's the idea that we're not trying to take anything over. Okay, it's just we give people a platform to come speak. We're all still based in the same ideas, and the reason why we call it truth, freedom, prosperity is because, as you can probably guess, it's about truth, freedom. Anybody want to guess at the last one? Prosperity. That's right. We want to see people prosper. We want to see people do well. We have a whole lot of entrepreneurs in our group, and they share ideas with each other. And the guy that works on all my heating now in my house is a group member. The guy that I bought my water system from, he's a group member. There's, I've done some real estate work for some of the members in the group, and you can always go to MikeSalvi.com if you're in the real estate market. What else? The things that we really truly stand on are truth, freedom, prosperity. We teach self-ownership, individual sovereignty, how to survive, not necessarily off the grid. There's room for that if you want to get off the grid, but if you're off the grid, you're probably not on meetup.com. So, and the biggest thing that we really want to do is debunking this most dangerous superstition. And spoiler alert, the most dangerous superstition is that there's actually authority. Okay, the belief in authority. Sorry if I'm giving away the second page of your book. It is. It's on the second page. I got to tell you, before I came here, the first, for a few weeks before I came here, I was really thinking about what do I want to share, what do I best know, do I want to stand out the most, or no, I honestly don't. Okay, all I want to do is tell you what's been working for me. I feel like life's going pretty well for me. I'm usually in a pretty good mood, and we have 670 some members in our meetup group, which is the 8th or 9th biggest Ron Paul meetup in the country, and it's one of the biggest Liberty meetup groups in the Philadelphia area, if not the biggest. It's probably the biggest, but if it's not, then it's definitely probably in second place. I say that to say that we're doing something right. People are paying attention, and people come out and they ask us when's our next event. I mean, we have people that come up from Maryland and down from Boston and down from New York to come see our events when we throw Fed stock or in the Fed rally. That's like intimidating because like, I really hope that it's worth it. I hope that we do it, put on a good show for you. They keep coming back, so that tells me that we are. Up until yesterday, I was very confident about the way that this was going to go. Until I sat down and clicked on the Agora.io website, and I started watching some of the talks. I watched Gary, was it Chartier? Amazing. Yeah. And I'm watching some of the next speakers, and I'm going, great. And then I look at Saturday's schedule, and I'm sandwiched between Stefan Molyneux and Larkin Rose. And I'm going, this better be good. I started getting nervous, I got to be honest with you, because I really saw the impact of what this whole weekend is about, and that it's not just, hey, we're having a couple people come out and speak, why don't you come speak too? I mean, this is a really, this is an amazing event, and, I'm lucky to be broadcast on the internet, and I got your ears, and you guys aren't allowed to talk right now, and I think that's pretty awesome. You can, but...
My voice is louder.
There was a video that came out the other day, and it was Tom Woods posted it on his Facebook page, and I don't know if you saw it, but there was activists that went outside from one of their events that they were holding to go and talk to the people that were protesting their event. And in a very nice way, they sat down and they talked to them, and they invited them in, and guess what? The protesters came inside. Because, and the reason I brought up Gary yesterday is because he did something that's very typical in sales, and so here's a little hint for you if you're on the other end of the sales world. Something called the objection cycle, okay? Where you agree with somebody first. If you're trying to get somebody to believe what you want to believe, you agree with them first, then you say but, you tell them what your, what your reasoning is, and then you ask them again to kind of, see it from your perspective. And he mentioned that. He actually talked about that. And that's what I saw. The reason I brought that video up is because that's what I saw. there was a line in there that I wrote down here, and the one guy said to the protester, look, you're going to love some of what we say, and you're going to hate some of what we say. But there's a lot of things that you are going to love, so come inside. And whatever your problem is, we can talk about it, but don't stand out here screaming. Okay, come and ask us what's going on. Come talk to us. That's probably the best way to not get frustrated, aside from just being overwhelmed. That's one of the best ways not to get frustrated by the fact that, because there's a lot of times where I'll see a story on the news about, I don't know, something ridiculous, and I just go, who are we trying to save? You know, there's, you know, you see, there's like a fight in a Burger King with people like in their bathing suits the other day. There's like these crazy stories about, you know, I don't know, just sick. There's sick, broken people in this world, I think. And sometimes you look around and you go, these people are just totally lost. I mean, you know, you look at some of the people that go to certain rallies that don't align with some of the things that we talk about, and you go, how can you support that? And there's like thousands and thousands of supporters behind some ridiculous idea. You go, how the heck do you convert those people? We're lost. It's almost like, if, you know, I feel, again, the word is inadequate. And I just feel completely almost overwhelmed by the opposition times. You know, if we're trying to get people to unplug from the signal, meaning the news stream, that's a heavy competition, because there's a TV in every house. Moreover, there's a TV in almost every room. And then when you leave the room, there's an iPhone that has Associated Press applications where you can get email updates and all this stuff. So you can, you know, it's really hard to run away from the message from the opposition. And sometimes that's very overwhelming too. But I get really excited, and some of the things that re-energize me is the gentleman that I met this morning. We were talking for a while, and then about 2 hours into our conversation, I said, he brought up the idea of authority, and how he said authority is like a myth. And I went, you got to read this book. And he grabbed it out of my hand, and he went, you know Larkin? And I pulled my sleeve up, and I showed him my Iron Web tattoo. And he almost fell out of his chair, and I hugged him. At a dance competition with a whole bunch of kids running around, I hugged this grown man. That gets me excited. That got me fired up, because to know that I'm not alone. And you know, I said, I'm starting naming all these like local activists. I'm like, oh, have you ever heard of this person? Especially when he mentioned your name. I said, you know, do you know this person? Do you know that person? He's like, no, I never heard of that. Oh yeah, I like this idea. I started talking. I said, have you ever heard of Julian Heiklin? He said, no. I think, and I said, yeah, he does a lot of work with used to do a lot of work with Fully Informed Jury Association. I'm laughing because of it. He said, no, he said, I've heard of him, but then he said FIJA. And like, you know, as soon as I said Fully Informed Jury Association, he cut me off. He went, oh, FIJA, I love FIJA. It's exciting to know that there's other people, and the guy lives like a few townships away from me. It's exciting to find out that there's other people that are involved in other channels that I may be kind of plugged into, but you know, that person isn't plugged into everything else that I'm plugged into. But, you know, just walked in somebody that I graduated high school with, and I haven't seen him since we graduated high school. He don't. I haven't seen him since we graduated high school, and then I see him at a Ron Paul event, like almost 10 plus years later, and I'm like, you're into this stuff too? You know, and that kind of fires me up. That stuff gets me excited. Look for that. And focus on your strengths and what you're good at. What I'm good at is what I'm good at. I'm good at promoting things. I'm good at kind of twisting things into a funny way, I guess. You know, trying to find humor in this whole big mess. That's the biggest thing that's helped me to not get totally overwhelmed. And I have to force myself sometimes to get recharged. I have to look past discouraging things, because there's, you know, you just pick your flavor. There's a million things that can discourage you and make you want to stop. I mean, there's another funny thing that the gentleman this morning asked me. He said, so you must have like no friends anymore, do you? And I laughed because I know what he meant, but I said, actually, no, that's the exact opposite. I said,
you have better friends.
I have more friends that are probably better than I've ever had in my life, in certain ways, but my friends that I haven't, you know, let go of. My friends aren't like afraid to talk to me. My one from Mario says, you know, Mike can go off on these crazy things, but I'll tell you what, he makes sense. None of it really is nuts. Like I get what he's saying. I don't know if it's because there's a, no, I know it's not. You know, I can say that it's because of a trust issue because they've known me all my life. But like when I go to family events, my family doesn't not want to talk to me because I'm quote unquote involved in politics, which I'm not even. But it seems that way because I'm paying attention to it at least. But they ask me questions. They're enticed. They're like, when I get texts from my cousins, it's a, I just bought more silver. When I get a text from a kid that I went to grade school with a few weeks ago, I get a text that says, "Call me crazy, but I think there's some kind of connection between our national debt and the Federal Reserve System. Is that true? Am I seeing this connection correctly?" And I said, "Why do you ask?" And he says, "My head is exploding with this book that I'm reading called The Creature from Jekyll Island." And I literally, I fell where I was standing because I was just so relieved to know that people are looking at this stuff. So I don't really mind that I'm on, that Pennsylvania Homeland Security hired a company called the Institute for Terrorism and Research based out of Tel Aviv that I'm anti-Semitic now because I'm criticizing central banking.
Welcome to the
Okay.
club, brother.
Thank you. I'm, that I'm a white supremacist, and I'm anti-Semitic. So I asked my half-black, half-Jewish ex-girlfriend to chime in, and I mean, come on, that's true, and it's so ridiculous. Like, knock it off. It does, that's crap. But what's good about it is if you look through history and the people that really stood out, they're the ones that got called these. They're the ones that are getting, criticized and called anti-Semitic. It's an easy thing to pigeonhole. All right, I'm not. All right, I love everybody. I don't care who you pay attention to, what your God is, whoever your up there guy is. It doesn't bother me. Keep focusing on your strengths. Getting back to this idea of, and I wanted to bring this up in this forum, especially when I know that there's anarchists and agorists in the crowd. I wrote down my civic duty versus your civic duty. I have friends that believe in their hearts that they're obligated to help other people in the world, especially when they're doing well. I think that's pretty noble. I think it's noble that if I do well at something, I want to maybe help bring somebody up. I'm not going to give them half my paycheck. Well, in theory, I'd like to not give them half my paycheck, even though we do. But I want to help somebody only because it's genuine. Only because, I feel obligated to do so. Here, the other guy that I was talking to this morning talked about in his community, he's going away for a week, and he needs somebody to watch his dog and walk his dog. And he said, without even having to ask a whole bunch of people, his neighbor across the street, who he talks to once in a while, is going to help him. He's going to walk his dog and feed him every day. Why? Just because they care about each other. They're in each other's neighborhoods. They hang out. They're friendly. That you can't mandate something like that. You can't regulate something like that. You can't put into legislation that you have to watch your neighbor's house when they go away. The only reason that people have like a town watch or a neighborhood watch is because they care about each other. And it feels good when they do, right? I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it happened for sure, but I'm pretty sure somebody tried to break in my house the other day. So the police came to my house because I have an alarm system, and the alarm people called me and they said, what's your passcode? Your alarm's going off. And I said, I'm not going to tell you my passcode because you called me from a 1-800 number. Can you tell me what's going on? They said, are you Michael Salvi of the address? And I said, a Google search will tell you that. And I didn't want to tell them, look, I'm on the friggin' terrorist watch list. I don't want to tell you my friggin' passcode, okay? They said, there's an alarm going off at your house. I said, okay. They said, we're going to send the police if you don't tell us your passcode. I said, hang up, call 911. I get them there right now. Like, what do you want? I get there, the cop comes to my house, hold on, officer. I put my dog in the kitchen. He's a very big dog. Put my dog in the kitchen. I come outside. I shut the door behind me. I know the routine. Shut the door behind me, and I said, hi, officer, my name is Michael. And he said, oh, you're Michael? I said, yeah. He says, everything okay? I said, yeah. He turned around and left. He didn't ask me for ID, which there would be no legal reason, but at least to clarify, I could be just some guy breaking in. Oh, I'm the owner. No problem. Go ahead, officer. The point of the story is, an hour later, my neighbor came over to me to find out why was there a police officer at my house. Not because he wants to gossip to the rest of the crowd, and the rest of the, everybody else that, oh, Mike's having a domestic dispute, or, the police are there, and Mike's involved in blah, blah, blah. He just wanted to know, does he need to be worried? And that was it. We share stuff like that. We bring ideas up to each other. And I would love to see a lot more people do that. What I'm finding is the more that I'm offline and out in the street and talking to people, that's going on. Okay? So a real easy way to not be overwhelmed and frustrated as an activist is spend like 10% of the time that you already spend online. Like, just cut it. Don't read these stories as much anymore. I mean, it's, like I said, it's very easy to get distracted and overwhelmed. Get out in the street, and that's always been my motto since, in business. I don't make any money as a real estate agent sitting in my office. Where do I make money? I make money going to events and talking to people and getting the word out. It's no different. All I've done was applied whatever natural business model I have to this, and it seems to be working. You guys are all listening to me. You like me? Yeah. Yeah? Online, do you like me? Love you too. So, let's skip that part. That's not really important. The last thing that I want to point out again, why I have such a problem with this whole central banking idea is because it's an idea of, like I said, money is normal. It's always going to be there. A trade exchange is never going to go away, because if I have 100 tomatoes in my yard that I've grown, and you've got eggs that you have gotten from your chickens, I'm not always going to be able to trade with you, and carry around all the tomatoes that I want. I'm not going to have a bunch of tomatoes in my yard, because what if I want to buy something or in my trunk, because what if something's really expensive and I don't have enough tomatoes to give you? So money as a normal means of exchange is fine. The problem is when these decision makers who manipulate the value of money all the time, they're the ones that literally have their their feet on our neck. Their feet on our neck. I mean, that's where the problem starts. And when they have ultimate control over what we're supposed to trade with, that's a big problem. Because if I'm going to tell you to build my house, and if I tell you build it 20 feet this way and 50 feet this way, and by the way, there's 12 inches in a foot, all right? You know that, so you can go out and get all your materials? Good. You show up the next day with all the materials ready to build my house, and if I tell you, well, now there's only 9 inches in a foot, but I still want it 20 feet this way and 50 feet this way, and you look at me like I'm absolutely crazy. What am I supposed to do with all this extra materials? I spent all this extra money. Who's going to make up for it? I don't know. They said now it's 9 inches today. Maybe tomorrow it'll be 12. Maybe the next day it'll be 8. Okay, and that's the problem that happens with our currency. I want to see people open the doors up. If you're into the legislation thing, one of the bills that I like was Ron Paul introducing the Competing Currencies Act. Okay, just remove repeal the legal tender laws. Okay, remove the taxes off of trading in coins, and just let us do our thing. I don't care what you trade with. I say this all the time. I don't care if you trade in potato chips or beets or whatever. I don't, silver, gold. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter as long as the value is going to be the same when we go to trade again. So get in where you fit in, and don't. You will get overwhelmed. Try not to. Try your hardest not to. It's like that level of perfection that you'll never reach. You're probably going to get overwhelmed. Okay, I should have probably told you that in the beginning. But don't worry about it. Okay. One of the things that I get overwhelmed with is usually like a month before a rally that I'm going to push. Okay, or something that happens, and that's like now, like this is perfect time. I was a little overwhelmed this week because we weren't sure about the venue that we were going to use for Fed stock. We had to make certain adjustments and all this, stuff, and I have to contact this person. I have to go through all that. That's where it starts to get overwhelming because I want everybody to be happy and I want everybody to show up and I want everybody to have a good time when we tell people to stop using Federal Reserve notes. And I wouldn't be doing my job as an activist if I didn't plug on April 23rd. You go to phillyandthefed.com, and if you need help. I put together all these signs, stuff that I was going to, there it is. Go to phillyandthefed.com. More details about Fed stock, but we're holding it in the Fed rally. And so that we're not beating a dead horse. Every time we try to do something different. And this time we're doing it sort of what we did again in November. We're going to start our march at the Federal Reserve. So that the metaphor isn't let's go to the Fed and tell them what our problem is. Let's go to the belly of the beast and say, thank you for the 100+ years of plunder. Okay, but we're done with you. and we're going to turn our backs on you. So when the time strikes, whatever the time we pick to strike the bell, we're all going to turn around. We're going to pull another parade float. We're going to have thousands of flyers to be able to hand out to the crowd and the public, and we're going to go down Market Street. Hopefully there's another Santa Claus parade that we can bash. I don't know if you know that, but there was a report that said that the End the Fed Ron Paulers crashed the Santa Claus event on Market Street. Yeah, we didn't crash it. Macy's Day Parade, that's what it was, right? We just walked by. We were there for all of about 4 to 5 seconds.
With the rock band.
With the rock band. So, anyhow, and then we're going to do an after party. All right, we're going to have performances, pool tables, shuffleboard, dart, food, vendors, sponsors. It's just going to be a good time. And really the bottom line is come hang out. It's a place to kind of let your hair down, to not feel like you're the only guy that knows this stuff or girl that knows this stuff. Again, truthfreedomprosperity.org. We show monthly movies. For the people, the reason why we show monthly movies is for the people that email links of films and stuff to their friends, and their friends either keep it as new for 7 months or just delete it or never watch it. We give people a forum to come out. And this month we're showing Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which goes into all the detail about how a lot of these countries have gotten roped into debt. And so the movies that we show are usually about an hour to an hour and a half long, and then we'll hold about a half hour to an hour discussion, and afterwards we usually hit the bar down the street. Next month, a few days after the End of Fed rally, we're showing Creature from Jekyll Island. This is all for education. Okay, I don't tell people at the end this is what needs to happen, but I want to show people what to do at least. And then the following month, thanks to Michael Dean, we're showing a film called Guns and Weed. That's all I have to say about that. Last thing I wrote down is not only read The Iron Web, but buy at least 5 copies from Larkin today and give them out to your friends. And if you want to be a sponsor at the Fed Stock and the Fed Rally, email me at whatever my email address is. How are we doing on time?
You have exactly 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Can we do questions? Can we knock out questions in 3 minutes? Do we have questions?
Okay. What makes the Philly and the Fed rallies so much better than those in the rest of the country?
Jim Beck.
That's right.
What makes it different? You just thought of that, didn't you? What makes it different? I don't know, because I've never been to another in the Fed rally. I've seen YouTube clips, and I've seen, whatever, and I'm not talking down about anybody. I love the fact that, only 5 people show up to a rally in one city. I'm not talking down against them. I think it's great. What's different about what we do in Philly?
Jordan Page.
Jordan Page, yeah. Jordan is different. I have 3 minutes, man. Shut up. What's different is the vibe, and it's the feel. There's energy in Philadelphia. Okay. There's a reason why the country was founded in Philadelphia. There's a reason why so many artists, so many boxers, so many hard-hitting entrepreneurs, so many good people come out of Philly. There's just energy here. Well, it just so happens that all those people that believe in freedom and truth and actually believe in this crazy notion that they own themselves have gotten together. And we're the ones behind the End of Fed rally in Philly. And I think that's what makes it stand out. Gentleman in the back.
Real simple question. If you want to end the Fed, a practical way would be start trading with foreign currency. What about using Swiss francs?
I don't care if you use German franc. Whatever, sure, absolutely, yeah. And trading in foreign currency, trading in anything other than Federal Reserve notes. Now be careful that the currency that you're trading in isn't backed by Federal Reserve notes. But sure, anything but that. I'm open.
I mean, that's a practical way to get us off of it and go forward. Just to bypass it.
That's the whole message, is to turn your back on it. We can try legislation. We tried legislation just to get an audit, and they kicked us out.
One other question. I know when talking to my bank, you can ask for a federal note directly from the bank. It takes about a week to get them, and that's money that comes directly from the federal government and bypasses the Federal Reserve Bank if you want to get money that way.
Interesting. Just learned something new. Anybody else? Any other questions before they drag me off stage? Ken, do you have a question?
How do we get world peace?
How do we get world peace?
30 seconds.
Stop using Federal Reserve notes. Stop feeding the monster, and wake up to the fact that you own yourself. And if you believe that, then there's no reason in the world to try to hurt anybody else, and then there's going to be peace. I mean, last thing, here's my last little analogy. When I'm driving, I realize that I owe everybody else on the road the courtesy of being in control of my vehicle all the time. I'm not worried about the fact that I'm going to get fined for texting while I'm driving. I have 2 fines that I may allegedly have 2 fines that are just sitting on the dresser right now. Okay, that doesn't scare me to stop wanting to use my phone. The fact that I'm driving a 6,000-pound bullet made of glass, metal, and plastic, and that I could crash into a family or a truck full of puppies, because I'm looking down trying to send somebody an LOL, that's enough to make me want to not use my phone. So, opening up to that idea of personal responsibility, world peace.
Yeah.
Like
Thank you, Mike. Wonderful stuff, man. Well, I wish I had known a lot of that before I got involved in politics. As you can see, it's nearing the end of the afternoon. I have to thank Jim Bad for buying me this fine, fine beer. What we're going to do is we're going to take a 5-minute break because we might run a little bit late. That's fine. Good stuff. During the break, we're going to do 2 things. First of all, we're going to reboot the connection because we hear a few people out there in TV land are having a problem with the video. Audio's coming through okay, though. And the other thing is going to give you folks a chance to visit James over here in the red shirt. If you can, we'd like a $15 donation to help cover costs today, and you will get a copy of any one of Lark and Rose's fine, fine books. Lark is still hiding in the back. When we reconvene at 4, he deserves more than that.
he does.
When we reconvene at 4 o'clock, which is in about 4 minutes now, we will be hearing from Lark and Rose, and he'll be giving us mental preparation for creating a free market. So he's going to do a little mind playing with our head. All right, we'll see you in 3 minutes. Thanks.
Not overwhelmed.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for doing this, MC.
Yeah, Sunday.
One of these days. Yeah, oh
Back there in the red. This book is most dangerous superstition, and again, most dangerous superstition is the idea that they're actually inside you, and that's part of it. That's very dangerous. Obviously, very dangerous. He's written a lot of he's written a bunch of ways. But yeah, so that's what this book's about. The book is